The topic of today's lesson is 1,000 moods. And I'm going to start today by reading a couple of quotes from famous individuals in history speaking about the power of 1,000 moods. This is an age in which the mood decides the fortunes of peoples rather than the fortunes decide the mood. And that's from Winston Churchill. Second is from George Russell, better known as A.E. George Russell writes, I became aware of a swift echo or a response to my own moods in circumstance which had seemed hitherto immutable in its indifference. I found every intense imagination, every new adventure of the intellect endowed with magnetic power to attract to it its own kin. Will and desire were as the enchanter's wand of fable, and they drew to themselves their own affinities. Around a pure atom of crystal, all the atoms of the element in solution gather, and in like manner, one person after another emerged out of the mass, betraying their close affinity to my moods as they were engendered. I met these people seemingly by accident along the country roads, or I entered into conversation with strangers and found they were intimates of the spirit. I could prophesy from the uprising of new moods in myself that I, without search, would soon meet people of a certain character. And so I met them. And finally, a quote by the great Herbert Hoover. Human history, with its forms of governments, its revolutions, its wars, and in fact, the rise and fall of nations, could be written in terms of the rise and fall of ideas implanted in the minds of men. Now, those ideas implanted in the minds of men do not start as an idea. The origin of an idea begins with a mood. As George Russell said, every intense imagination, every adventure of the intellect, right? All these moods that are being caught was endowed with magnetic power to attract its own kin. Okay, so ideas implanted in the minds of men are attracted by the moods. And we are living in an age in which our mood determines our fortunes, and our fortunes do not determine our mood. Okay, particularly when we know who we are. When we know who we are and we are in that state of authorship, then we start our writing by catching a mood. I was thinking as I was preparing for this conversation about moods, what exactly is a mood? What exactly is a mood? Okay, and it's an interesting question to ask. There's a lot of ways to relate to this idea of what a mood is, and it's important that we understand it because we are told that really the origin of what we experience in our reality begins with our moods. So we must understand what a mood is, and we must understand how to catch a mood. Because out of the moods that we catch will flow the circumstances of our lives, including, as Mr. Russell was stating, the people that we meet, the types of ideas that are implanted in our minds. As Mr. Hoover was saying, or as Winston Churchill was saying, our mood will determine our fortune. So it's imperative that we understand what a mood is. Okay, so a mood really is a state of consciousness. Okay, a state of consciousness really is a mood. And a mood really has a complexity to it. There's nuance to a mood. A mood transcends this idea of a mere feeling. Okay, so 1,000 moods, right? So really, a mood that is a state of being. A state of being would really contain many moods. Okay, there could be a predominant mood, but a state of being is a way of relating to the world. And so to catch a mood is really a way of catching a bounty or a harvest of feelings about many different things. A mood that is a state of consciousness would be a certain way, a certain calibration of our energy of relating to who we are being, meaning our identity, right? That's a mood. I can get into a mood about who am I, right? I can catch a mood. Oh, I'm an adventurer. I'm on an adventure. Okay, there's a mood associated with the feeling of adventure. That's really what adventure is. It's a mood. Okay, there's a mood associated with the feeling of prosperity. Okay, there's a mood associated with the feeling of possibility or lack of possibility. Okay, these are, we can speak of them as being an overarching energetic calibration, like, oh, I feel like anything is possible. Okay, so that might be the state. Anything, I feel like anything is possible. My mood is that anything is possible. And then as I'm moving through my day, as I'm moving through my world, I am now viewing the circumstances and the situations and the people, the places, the things, and the events. And all of these are being interpreted through the lens of my mood. And really, as relating back to what these wise men were saying that we quoted at the beginning, really, it's not just that our mood is a lens of interpretation. Our mood has magnetic power. Okay, so our mood will attract to it ideas, people, places, things, and events that resonate in harmony with that frequency. It'll attract to it its own affinities. Okay, so mood, it's a state of consciousness. It's a state of awareness. Okay, so how to catch a mood? Okay, so if it's more than just a feeling, okay, so a mood is a feeling sustained over time. Okay, we can define it that way. Feelings become a state of consciousness, which is a mood. Feelings become a mood when they are sustained over a specific amount of time, certain amount of time. When they are sustained over a length of time, they become a mood. And this is why, Neville and other mystics speak of catching the mood. Okay, catching the mood, coming into alignment, beginning to recalibrate or realign ourselves with a specific mood. Okay, so there's it's some of us can change moods very quickly. Some of us move in and out of moods very quickly, but really we have the opportunity to understand that our moods really are the creative essence of the life that we're experiencing. So the mood that we're moving about in is attracting the circumstances that we will experience. Okay, so thinking about this, it's like, okay, how would I go about consciously choosing a mood? Consciously choosing a mood. So to consciously choose a mood, we have to understand a little bit about how our bodies work, a little bit about how our emotional bodies relate to our physical bodies, relate to our mental bodies, our spirit bodies. We are a energetic complex, okay? And so considering this idea of a mood, we understand that a mood is not limited to one of these bodies. A mood is actually expressed across all of these bodies. A mood creates alignment across the energy complex that we are experiencing in this reality. There's an alignment in a specific direction. So all of that, our emotional energy, our physical energy, our spiritual energy, our mental energy being aligned and flowing in a specific direction. Now that is a mood. Okay. So when you start to consider that there is depth and complexity and nuance to this idea of a mood, we can start to look at how would I animate a mood? How would I animate a mood? Okay, well, if my physical body is a part of the mood, then I probably literally hold a different energy in my body. Okay. I probably sit a little bit differently. Maybe I choose a slightly different posture based on the mood that I am animating. Okay. If you've ever, looked, you're walking through your world and you happen to see another person and you can tell from the way that their body is animating, you can tell the mood that they are bringing with them as they're walking through their world. Okay, that's actually true of all of us all of the time. We are always carrying a mood in our field. And the idea is to become aware of it and then to choose through that awareness, the awareness creating freedom, the freedom of choice. Okay, to be able to choose the mood that we will put on and wear in our world. Okay, so from a physical perspective, it may be quite literally how we are holding ourselves, our posture. Okay, when I have caught a mood of being on an adventure and experiencing unlimited possibilities, literally anything could happen. Okay, I'm probably a little bit more alert, probably a little bit more aware of what's going on around me. Okay, so now I'm animating with perhaps a little bit more presence than if I were caught up in the opposite of that mood, which is there's nothing exciting happening. We're the farthest thing from adventure. I already know what's going to happen, and I'm, somewhere in the past or somewhere in the future in my awareness, and I'm not alert at all. Okay, so that body language would be very different. Okay, so a mood even translates to a body language. Okay, and this is where we can speak of our first best practice in this conversation about 1,000 moods. Our first best practice is somatic movement, bringing the body into a mood, not restricting it just to emotions and mentality, not restricting it only or solely to quality of thoughts, okay, or inner speech, as we spoke about last week, but bringing the body into it, bringing movement into it. And this is why I have found, in my many years of working with this idea of catching moods, I have found that a walking meditation on a specific mood, a walking meditation is one of the most effective tools for catching a mood. To literally bring an idea into my awareness. Okay, I have a word for this. I call them wealthy walks. Okay, wealthy walks. I bring an idea into my awareness and I begin to contemplate it. And then I go for a walk, for a walk through my world, whether it be around my neighborhood or, in a forest somewhere. It doesn't matter really the venue, the location. The idea is that I'm walking, and as I'm walking, I'm cultivating this mood and I'm feeling it move throughout my body. I'm feeling, my shoulders go back. I'm feeling my chest open. I'm feeling my spine straighten. I'm feeling my stride lengthen. And I'm walking in the feeling of this desired mood. Okay. And this is, something that we can practice anywhere. You can practice this anywhere. This can be, literally this can be the first thing that you wake up and do every morning is to literally move as you're contemplating the desired mood for the day and begin to bring that energy and begin to animate as that energy, understanding that as we go through this process of aligning our energy with the desired mood, we are creating that magnetic power that George Russell speaks of that will attract to it its affinities. And as we're animated in this energy and we go out into the world, seeming strangers will appear and we will discover that they are the perfect match to that desired mood. Okay, so imagine that I'm out and about in my world, walking about in the state of adventure and infinite possibility, and also feeling quite wise and quite hopeful and quite excited about the potential of my life. And then I get to meet other people that are corollaries to that mood. That's pretty powerful. That's pretty powerful. I get to literally move into my world and prophesy over my day who I'm going to meet, how they're going to show up, the types of circumstances that are likely to occur, because I know that I'm creating them. And I know that I'm creating them through the calibration of my energy. And the calibration of my energy becomes a magnetic power, becomes a magnetic force, especially when I'm in a place of congruence, of coherence, of harmony across all of those layers of my being that we have spoken of. My physical body, my physical energy, my emotional body and energy, my mental body and mental energy, and even my spiritual body and spiritual energy. When all of those layers of my being are in alignment and I have really caught this mood, okay? Now, all of my levels of awareness are aligned, right? And facing the same direction. I'm remembering in this moment Neville speaking about the difference between a magnetized piece of steel and an unmagnetized piece of steel. And he was talking about the process of magnetizing a piece of steel is aligning all of the molecules in a specific direction so they become highly attractive. Okay, there's an attraction force when all of the molecules are facing a specific direction. Whereas an unmagnetized piece of steel, molecules can be all askew, some pointing this way, some pointing the other way. Right? So same thing goes for us. When I am mentally, robotically affirming something, but my emotions are not aligned, I'm feeling rather poor in spirit. Okay, even though I'm robotically affirming something up here and trying to overcome, and then my posture is just kind of haphazard. Okay, so my physical body is kind of doing whatever, and then my spiritual body, maybe I'm not even aware of anything related to a spiritual. So I'm all disordered and incoherent. Okay, can I still manifest things? Of course I can. Okay, but it is in small measure compared to the magnetic power of attraction that I possess when I align those layers of my being and I focus them in a specific direction. When I do that, that is when I, as an energetic complex, become a force of nature. I become a force of nature when I choose a certain mood, right? When I choose a certain mood and I bring it in and I experience it on all of the layers of my being, of my awareness, and I allow it to permeate my awareness all the way through to the core. And I really catch this mood and I begin to move and walk and act and be this person that is the animation, the expression of this mood. Now my attraction force is at its peak. Now I am highly magnetized. And now circumstances, people, places, things, and events will rush to meet me. And this is the power of moods. This is the power of moods. There was a time in my life where I would wake up in the morning and I would just find myself in a mood, not necessarily a positive or desirable mood. I just find myself in a mood. And there was a time in my life before I really reclaimed the power of authorship. There was a time in my life where I thought that moods were outside of my control. It's just something that happened to me. It's just, I didn't really understand it. It seemed like it was a black box idea, meaning that, there's something's going on in the chemistry, the alchemy, I don't know. Something's going on and the net output is that I just happen to feel a certain way today. Okay. And what I discovered as I began to reclaim that seat of authorship, right, that seat of authority, being the captain of my own destiny, as I really began to step back into that place of being the ruler of my self-governation and began to really, you know, claim that authority, I began to realize that really those moods that just seemed to kind of take over me as opposed to me assuming a mood, the mood seemed to assume me. The reason why that happened is because I was not actively setting my energy. I was not actively choosing. Okay. So th- there's profound wisdom to this idea of we must choose, or if we do not choose, then the generative mechanism of our reality will just simply provide us an option. Okay. So it's like, uh, if I know that I have an event later on today, I can choose to go into imagination and imagine the desired outcome. And when I do that, I literally change the probabilities. I literally change the probabilities using my consciousness because I am the observer. I'm observing the chosen probability outcome. I literally change the probabilities of that event. Whereas if I do not imagine the desired outcome and I just walk into it and I say, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't really have a preference. I haven't really chosen anything. I certainly haven't imaged anything. Now I'm leaving it up to essentially chance. It's a little more complex than that, but for the purpose of this teaching, we'll just say it's either going to be just kind of a roll of the dice, or it's going to be I have influenced probabilities by pre-paving an imagination. Okay. Now, the how this ties in is it literally comes down also and applies to this idea of moods. So I can just wake up and be like, oh, how am I feeling today? And then just whatever comes to me, I just accept. Oh, that just must be how I am today. Okay. That's really just kind of letting the probabilities land where they may. Or I can choose. I can choose. And by actively choosing, I am now resuming authorship over my state, over my life, over my circumstances. I am now prophesying what will occur to me later on in the day based on the mood that I'm choosing to animate. Okay? Winston Churchill says, we're living in an age where our moods determine our fortunes. Our fortunes do not determine our moods. Okay. Some people allow their fortunes to determine their moods, which is essentially giving power away to the mirrors of the world, as opposed to knowing that I am the operant power, that if I want to change something, I must change my face rather than trying to scratch it out on the mirror. Some people who believe that their fortunes will determine their mood, that is a state that is coming from a very different place of awareness than this concept that we have explored so extensively in this place of assuming that I am the person that I desire to be now. That act of assumption, when correctly operated, generates a mood. It generates a mood because the person that I desire to be has a specific mood. There is a feeling, not just a feeling, a bounty of feelings sustained over time that become a mood. And that mood is not just in my emotions. That mood goes through all of the layers of my being. Okay, now there are many examples that we can look at to really land this idea of 1,000 moods and understanding the creative power of them. Okay, so some people, I've come across teachings like this in the past. They believe that the most important aspect of a manifestation practice is creating these large spikes of emotion. Okay, I am so happy and joyful and just ecstatic and thrilled that a certain thing is now a fact in my world. Okay, but wisdom tells us the emotional layer is just one layer of our human energy template. It's just one layer. Okay, so while it's a part of the puzzle, a true mood goes beyond just that part of the puzzle. A true mood extrapolates itself across the various layers of our being, and we animate it in multiple ways. So it's going to show up everywhere. Okay, it's like I said, it's going to show up in how I walk, how I hold my body, my posture. It's going to show up in how I speak. It's going to show up in the types of ideas that are arriving in my mind, because it is my moods that attract my fortunes, and my fortunes really come out of my ideas. So the mood starts, right? Like if I have a very high mood, the ideas that come into my mind about what to do next are going to be very different than if I have a very low mood and I'm trying to attract ideas from a low state or low frequency, a low mood. Okay. If I'm in a mood of lack and limitation and want, or even greed, the ideas that come to mind about how to fulfill that mood are going to be on the same wavelength as the mood. If I am animating from a place of, I feel like I'm extremely abundant, I feel like I have limitless possibility, unlimited potential, I can literally be or do or have anything. I know that I am an inheritor of the kingdom. I know that really anything that I say, I will have. I will have what I say. From that canvas painted of unlimited possibility, the ideas that come about how to express that state will vibrate in alignment with that mood. It'll vibrate in alignment with that mood. Okay, so we spoke of one best practice already, which is this idea of a wealthy walk, which is just simply walking or really moving your body. Okay, walking is one way of moving your body, but the idea is to animate, make sure that it becomes physical. The mood extrapolates from the inmost all the way out to the physical layer of your being. So it goes through dimensions, through time and space, and it's complete. Okay, when I actually move as that person, when I move and give life through my animation as that person. Okay, so that's one of the best practices. But then I also want to talk about really the best mood is. Okay, now obviously each one of us can personalize our greatest personal mood, but there are certain threads of energy that can be the origin of the mood that we then personalize. Okay, so there's threads, there's a foundation or a core of energy that we can then modify, upgrade, calibrate to really fit our exact personality or exactly who we want to be. But these threads we share between us. So every human being who is a child of the Most High, I feel like this is the place from which to start. Okay, so there's really two. There's really two ideas here that we're going to plant as seeds of moods. Okay. The first idea is summarized in 3 words. The mood is, I have arrived. I have arrived. I have arrived. Okay, let's talk about I have arrived. Within the nuance of moods, there are these tiny little calibrations of thoughts. And in those tiny little calibrations of thoughts, there is this very highly important and consequential, but also nuanced and sometimes easy to overlook difference between I am and I will be. Feels similar, but there's a difference between I am and I will be. Okay? This idea of I have arrived is the genesis of a mood of I am. I am. If I have arrived, then I'm not going anywhere. I'm not trying to get anywhere. I'm not trying to be something that I'm not yet. Okay? I have arrived. I am here now. Building a mood on the foundation of I have arrived is really setting the tone of I am now the person that I desire to be. I have arrived. And that it's important that we really clarify the identity of that I who has arrived. Who is it that has arrived? Well, it's the I that I am. It's the part of me that is divine, that is in a human body and has arrived to this moment. The part of me that has arrived is the part of me that is a child of God, child of the Most High, the inheritor of the kingdom. We begin to build our mood on that. On that. The I that I am, the inheritor of the kingdom, child of the Most High, in my true identity, I have arrived. And I am exactly the person that I desire to be now. I am that person now. We begin to catch that mood. Begin to catch that mood. What is that feeling like? What is that mood? What is the tone? What does it feel like to know my true identity? What does it feel like to know that I am the inheritor of the kingdom? To know that my Father is God and I am a child of the Most High? To know that that is my lineage, to know that that is my inheritance. That's where I came from. That's to where I will return. To know that the whole vast world is myself pushed out. To know that everything that there is God, that I'm having an experience of God as God. I'm viewing myself. This is a mood that we can begin to catch and cultivate. And at first, it may feel like you're trying it on for size. You're going into the fitting room. Oh, how does this feel? How do I, catching your reflection in the mirror? How, how does this feel? How do I look? Does this suit my energy? Do I feel like I'm in alignment? Is this a flattering, for outfit for me to wear? Okay, that can be any mood, right? But starting with this premise of my origin story that transcends my local human lifetime and really feeling into this mood, the 3 words, I have arrived, that's just the thread that you can pull on, right? That's the thread that you can pull on. But if you follow that thread down into the silence of your own being, a mood will begin to erupt out of that silence, and you will begin to feel what that feeling is like. And I am speaking from experience when I say it is a glorious feeling. It is a glorious feeling. I have arrived. I have arrived is where it begins. That's the foundation that we begin to build on there. And then this mood that starts with I have arrived, this mood, we begin to kind of tone it or calibrate it or tune it. And there's a predominant energy that I feel is a best practice for calibrating a mood that begins with I have arrived. Okay. And that mood, that tone, that tuning of energy is a spirit. And that spirit is curiosity. It's curiosity. I have arrived. I know who I am. I am here now. I know my lineage. I know my inheritance. I know that I am experiencing the kingdom. I know that I am living in the kingdom. I know who I am. And I also know that I'm living this human life. And I know that it's the greatest story ever told. And I'm on the adventure of a lifetime. What is the spirit that I will assume as I now move into my day? The spirit of curiosity. Curiosity. What a beautiful, magnificent, marvelous world I am living in. I am so curious to go out and meet more of myself. I am so curious to go out and meet those people, places, things, events, ideas, thoughts, conversations that are attracted, that find themselves in alignment and in an affinity with this mood of I have arrived and I know who I am. I am so curious to go out into my world, to experience the evidence of my senses, to experience the story that I'm living. It's the greatest story ever told. I know this because I know who I am and I know what the story is. I know the theme of the story, okay? But I don't claim to know everything that's going to happen. And that's why I choose to greet fate in the spirit of curiosity. The spirit of curiosity. I am open to receive the abundant gifts that this world has for me, that are in alignment with this mood that I'm animating in as I move throughout my day, throughout my world, throughout my life. Each day that we live is essentially a mini lifetime. It's essentially a mini lifetime. Each day is micro to the macro that is our life. Okay, so the way that we start and end our day should be the way that we would choose to start and end our physical human experience here on earth. Come out of woman, pop into planet earth and breathing, right? That's the breath, right? The breath of life. I take that first gulp of air, the breath of life. I have arrived. I am so curious to experience this incredible world I've outpictured for myself. Okay. And then at the end, having lived through the long journey, and we're ready to leave the body behind and move on to what's next. Okay. And that closing ceremony is one of profound gratitude and appreciation. Thank you for this life that I have lived. Thank you for the profound adventure the glorious exploration. Thank you for the people, the places, the situations, the circumstances, the events of my life that taught me a lot, that showed me a lot, that satisfied in many ways my curiosity about things, that met my curious mood and showed me things about myself. Thank you for the masterclass lesson in being a child of the Most High and learning to receive and claim my inheritance. I'm so grateful for this experience. We have the opportunity to begin our days and end our days each day this way, knowing that each of our days adds up to the content of our life. And then by doing this in miniature in each day, we are also doing this in the fullness and completion that is our individual human life. Beginning the day with that spirit and mood of I have arrived and the spirit of curiosity. I know the mood that I'm animating. I am curious to see how my world reflects it back to me in these glorious mirrors that I view every time I use my senses. Every time I use my senses, my physical body is a sensor. Every time I use my physical senses, I am viewing the mirrors. And I'm so curious to see what I will encounter that will match this lovely mood that I have assumed and engendered and cultivated within myself. Moving through the day and then coming into twilight and reflecting back upon the day and feeling a profound sense of gratitude and appreciation. Thank you. Thank you, all that I am, for the experiences of this day. Thank you for the characters that rush to meet and were attracted by the magnetic power that I am, magnetic power of my moods. Thank you for all that I learned and I experienced. Thank you for the magic. Thank you for the mystery. Thank you that I was able to greet everything that I experienced to the best of my ability in a spirit of curiosity. The power of catching a mood. Okay. We've talked about best practices. We've talked about allowing a mood to leave the realm of just emotion or just thoughts or just inner speech and permeate out through all of the layers of our being so that we are walking and talking and acting and thinking and feeling and really being the mood. I am the mood. We've talked about the power of a wealthy walk, which is really a way of setting the energy and catching that mood. You know, I will sometimes walk for about 45 minutes in the morning and literally just walking, and the whole time I am it's like I'm smelling the mood. I'm so deeply immersed in the mood. It's like I can smell it. It's like I can taste it. Right? It's like I've pulled it into my awareness. I'm sensing it with my sensors, even though its origin is imaginal. Okay, but I'm feeling it. I'm that present to it. And I can walk for 45 minutes, really just feeling that mood. And you can imagine coming back and starting my day being fully assumed from this 45-minute wealthy walk. Right? I'm oozing it from every pore of my body. I'm oozing this feeling. And that's a best practice. We also spoke about the foundation of catching a high mood, an enlightened mood. It starts with this concept of I have arrived. I have arrived. and then understanding who it is that we're claiming has arrived, because that is our connection to the divine. And we're inviting the divine into our experience of the day by starting with an establishment, a reminder of our lineage to the divine. I have arrived as a mechanism for relating to the divine in that way. And then we spoke about really animating the spirit of curiosity. Okay, so this is the perennial student. This is the, I'm so curious to learn. I'm so curious to know more. This is the world is mystery. I can prophesy the types of things that will happen because I know who I am and I know the mood that I am carrying with me, but I'm so curious to meet them. This is a very beautiful frequency of energy to embody. And it allows us to really receive very beautiful things in our day because we are carrying with us an alignment with receiving very beautiful things because we're curious. We're not prejudging, right? We're not in a place of presumption, right? Pre-assumption. Other than, I'm carrying a high mood, I can expect beautiful things are going to happen. That's as far as that goes. But when individual things happen, it's like, oh, well, let's see where this goes. Okay, so that's a spirit of curiosity. And the spirit of curiosity is very much aligned with our origin story of really being the great I am, playing the part of these characters. It really is predominantly an energy of love, woven very tightly with an energy of curiosity that prompted the I am that we all are to take on human forms and have an experience of ourselves, which is also each other and also all that is. Okay, so it's love woven together with curiosity. As Alan Watts, the great philosopher, has said, gives the example of us all dreaming the dream of life. And he's like, okay, let's have a dream where we don't really know what's going to happen. Not exactly. We don't really know exactly what's going to happen. And there's a mystery to that. There's a curiosity to that. And it seems like, some of the other great philosophers have spoken of the whole vast universe as really animating a search for novelty. Let's figure out what we are. Let's see if there's something new. And so there's this curiosity of like, what, who and what am I in the royal sense? Like all that is wants to understand itself, gnosis, self-knowledge. And there's really no better way to animate as a student than to come in a spirit of curiosity. Okay. And then we also spoke about each day being a microcosm of the macrocosm that is our lives. And so starting each day the way that we would choose to start a lifetime and ending each day the way we would choose to end a lifetime. A physical, human body lifetime. And how really beginning to frame our days that way is a very powerful recipe for living. And I'd like to close with a specific story about a time when I caught a mood. This is the true story. I actually have proof. I went and I found the documentation. It's actually written. It's written documentation. I can prove this story. At least I can prove the facts of this story. The moods, all I can do is testify. Okay, I can testify what my moods were that caused the outpicturing of this story. Okay, and this goes straight into the world of Caesar. So I hope we're at a point where we have really absorbed the teaching of this session, this idea of 1,000 moods. We've really absorbed the power of moods, and we can now transition to a very practical application of catching a mood. Because, like I said, we're about to go straight into the world of Caesar. Okay, so this particular story, it dates back several years. And the reason why I chose this story, even though it is several years old, is because I remember it so vividly, because it literally was one of the first times where I took this idea of catching a mood and I, with incredibly focused intention, chose to operate it as though it were a law, because it is. And I boldly appropriated the experience for myself because I operated it as a law. Okay, so here's how the story goes. At the time in 2021, I was heavily involved in the markets. I was trading the markets every day. And I don't want to get into too many details and distract, but the bottom line is I was doing very short term trading, usually within a single day or sometimes within an hour or two. I was in and out of a position in the financial markets. And I was learning a lot. It was an interesting experience for sure. And it was a certain type of mood, right? It was a certain type of mood of like, what's going to happen in the next 15 minutes to 3 hours? Okay. So it was like a very specific type of mood. And then I began to contemplate a slightly different type of mood. A new mood started to come over to me, and I started to have new ideas. And this new mood said something to the effect of, what if instead of being focused on these really short time frames and trying to essentially make a buck in 15 minutes to 3 hours, what if I took a more leisurely medium term approach? What if I took what in the industry we call a swing trade, meaning a trade that lasts multiple days or weeks or even months? And I had not trained in this as a modality. I was not trained in how to trade like in a longer time frame. All of my training was these really short-term time frames. Okay, so this is a new idea. It was a new mood. And so I literally saw the opportunity. I was like, you know what? I'm going to create a mood and then I'm going to attract to myself an experience. And so I began to assume the mood. What would the feeling be like if I woke up every day and I checked my swing trade position and saw that it was moving in the correct direction for me to make a large profit? And what would that feeling be like? And so I began to catch this mood. I noticed that there was an ease and a grace to it, whereas 15 minutes to 3 hours was a pretty highly stressful way to make money. This idea of I don't need to really worry about what it does today because I'm really interested in what it's going to do over the next 3 to 6 to 9 weeks. It's a very different mood to that. So I started to play with that mood. What would the feeling be like? And I started to draw it near, and I noticed that my attitude started to change. And instead of kind of being leaned forward into the charts, into the markets, into what I was doing, I noticed that my body language started to lean back and I became more relaxed, more chill about the whole thing. This is before I took any trades. Okay. This is before I did anything. I literally was just playing with the mood. And over a period of a couple of days, I was playing with this mood and I was like, you know what? I think there's something to this. I'm going to assume this mood. And so I really got into the thought, feeling, body, mind, spirit type feeling of having a medium term swing trade. Okay. And in my mind's eye, I was like, okay, I want to make like $20,000. That's the number that I came up for myself. I want to make $20,000 and I want to do it in like, we'll say 2 months, 2 month long swing trade, $20,000. That's what I set in my mind's eye. And so I started to feel into what would the feeling be like were this the case. I didn't know what asset it was going to be. I didn't know how the trade was going to execute. I didn't have any of the how. That I really want to emphasize this point because the how comes from the mood, okay? The how comes after the mood. We must understand this. You catch the mood first, and then that magnetic force, the magnetic power that A.E. Herbert Hoover and Winston Churchill and Neville Goddard and so many other wise people throughout history speak of, that will bring the ideas that are in affinity with the mood. Okay, so I started by catching the mood. And I remember it was on a Wednesday night that I was in a class, and the person that I was interacting with in this class was one of my teachers that was talking about these really short time frame trades. Okay. And for some reason, that particular night, after I had spent the last about 3 days really assuming this new mood, that person felt compelled to come into this class and to begin to talk about one of his friends who was connected in a bold way and managed a large amount of money, who had told him about a specific trade that he was in the process of loading up on. Okay, he's in the process of building a position on a certain trade. And so I'm in the mood, right? So instantly my ears perk and I'm like, wait a second, am I literally just being told a way to fulfill this mood? So this man came and he told us about this position that his well-connected friend was in the process of building with his portfolio. And he gave the specifications for the trade. So I thought about it. I was like, okay, is this a match to my mood? And the answer was a resounding yes. And I was like, okay, well, if this is a match to my mood, then I'm going to take it. I'm going to take this trade. And so I did. It was, let's see, June 24th, 2021 at 10:06 a.m. Let me go ahead and show you all the evidence here. June 24th, 2021, 10:06 a.m. I bought 30 of these contracts for August at a total cost of $5,700. Okay, that was my entry price. Without getting into too much of the technicals here. And from June to the week of August here, between the 16th and the 20th, I held to this trade and I just sustained the mood. Okay, and you can see that on August 16th, 2021, I sold half of the position at $9.05 that I paid $1.90 for a total credit of $13,575. And then 4 days later, actually, that was the expiration date on the 20th, I sold the remaining 15 at $7.66 for an estimated credit of $11,490. If you add these two numbers together and you subtract the initial cost of the position, it comes out to just a little bit over $19,500. And remember that my mood was, I want to make $20,000 over a long-term trade. Okay, so why do I show you evidence of trade confirmations? Okay, here's the key point that I want you to take away from this. Okay, whether you have any interest in financial markets or not is really irrelevant. This is a teaching moment. Okay, so the teaching moment is it all started by catching the mood. And I did this. The reason why I showed this example in particular is because it was so vivid in my imagination, because I was like, oh, this feels completely different. Let me try this on for size. And as I began to try it on for size, and I was also wealthy walking quite frequently during this period of my life. So I'm certain that I was walking in the state of being a medium-term trader and watching a large return. This is about what, 4x return on my money. I was really animating that as a state. So I remember it very vividly. And so I was walking in that state. I was acting in that state. And I didn't know the how. That's the key point. I didn't know the how, because the how comes after the mood. If you are asking the question of how is this going to be before you have assumed the mood, you've got it backwards. You must enter the mood first and then allow the how to emerge from the field of infinite intelligence that we are. Okay, so I simply entered the mood. The how was handed to me on a silver platter. I didn't have to go out and research and find. Literally, a guy came to me and said, here's a trade. And I said, that matches my mood. I'm going to take it. And the outcome matched my mood. That's pretty close, right? Pretty close to a perfect match. I'm going to go ahead and call it a perfect match because I was very, very happy and pleased with the outcome. Okay, so that's the world of Caesar, very practical example of catching the mood and understanding that as that mood begins to animate all of the layers of our being, all of the people and places and events and circumstances and situations that are cooperative components will come rushing to meet that magnetic attraction force of us being in such profound alignment. Okay, and then the story we will get to walk through and experience, right? With a spirit of curiosity, right? So I didn't know when I placed this trade, I didn't know beyond the prophecy of my mood exactly what would happen. Okay, as it turns out, this particular trade was in the red for about 2 hours, and it never went red again. Like meaning that the price that I paid to enter the trade, that position became worth less for about 2 hours, and then after that, it was for the next 2 months, it was worth more than what I paid for it. So it was like a very smooth progression. Not all trades are like that. But I didn't know that was going to happen. Not with my local human brain. I just knew that I was animating a mood. And so I trusted the mood to bring about the cooperative components. Okay. And that's the key transmission of wisdom from this practical example. Okay, beautiful. All right. So with that, I would like to invite members of the Zoom room who are gathered with me. These are the mastermind members, channel members. Anyone who has anything to contribute? Let me get this here. Contribute to the conversation or feedback or anything of the sort. All right. Anybody in the Zoom room?
Comment, Josiah.
Hi. Yes, go ahead.
One of my favorite things to listen to is you reading Neville Goddard's Inner Conversations. And it's so important for me to just keep reiterating that, because sometimes my mind is just going places and I'm wondering, why in the world am I even thinking that? And to become conscious, of our inner conversations really changes the game, to live mindfully and to really be aware of why we're thinking the way we are and how those thoughts change our moods.
If we allow them to. So I feel that the mood, there's a place where the mood comes first and then the thoughts rush to meet it. So by setting the mood consciously, the thoughts should become a match for that mood.
That makes sense.
Beautiful. Thank you, Andrea. Shelley, go ahead.
I was thinking that the word "I have arrived" kind of sparks the mood. Everything that you taught, I'm definitely going to be using that one as an anchor. So if the world of theater started getting on my nerves, I could just, go to my heart and say, "I have arrived." And
yes.
that will encompass, my original mood that I intended, or just stop me flipping, actually. It could be easy to flip sometimes.
Yeah.
At least the space I'm in right now, it can be easy to flip sometimes. So I have arrived. I literally, it's a visceral feeling, so that's cool. Yeah.
I'm glad it's visceral. That's the whole idea. Yes, because if you're describing it as visceral, that means you're feeling it across those layers that we talked about. It's visceral. Yes. You can also write it down. It's very powerful to write that down. I have arrived. And then notice how it comes out of your hand, right? Because that's not a small sentence. That's a powerful sentence. I have arrived. So notice how you animate that even on the page. I have arrived. Yeah, it's very powerful. Yeah. Thank you for that, Shelley. Anyone else in the Zoom room? Yes.
Hi, thank you for sharing that example. I loved it. Sorry, just in the middle of my workout.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I had a question around in moments when you weren't seeing any progress, did you have any kind of mental diet processes that support you in going back to being in the end or being in the mood? Or in moments where it was like, I can't see it yet.
Yeah. So for me, and this is like everything we speak about in this space, there's practice associated with this. So if I say something, you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe just some practice helps you get there. But for me, it's curiosity. So it's when I'm in a place where maybe I don't see it, and the storyline like is kind of, I'm kind of experiencing the storyline. I'm kind of like, where is this going? Reconnecting, regrounding back into that spirit of curiosity helps me kind of take the pressure off and just be like, I'm just curious to see what's going to happen. And kind of embracing the idea of like, I'm going to hold the mood, but really no matter what happens, it's going to be a really interesting story. Okay. So it's like that curiosity, that, not putting too much pressure on it, not looking at it too much harshly or too seriously, not taking it too seriously, not taking anything that happens too seriously. There's been so many times that I've been holding a mood for something, and then it seems like there's a plot twist. And if I let the plot twist knock me out of alignment, then the story kind of goes a different direction. But if I'm like, I'm still holding the feeling, then the plot twist just becomes like a cool part of the story at the end. It's like it adds a depth and dimension to the story, if that makes sense. So I feel like curiosity is what helps us ride through that bumpy road, right? Sometimes it can be bumpy, right? And curiosity, I think, keeps us on the horse as we're riding that bumpy road.
Awesome, thank you. I was thinking of it like a neutral scientific approach. You embark on the study and the process. You don't know what's going to happen, but you don't change the method halfway.
Well said. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a great way to conceptualize it. Yeah, you don't change the method. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Thank you for that, Ariel. Okay, anybody else in the Zoom room? Okay, I think we are complete in the Zoom room. Mastermind members, we're going to do a brief mastermind at the conclusion of this live stream. So go ahead and hop in to the Zoom room. So we will do that. Okay, so final closing thoughts here for this episode of Sunday Mystery School, 1,000 moods, okay? Our moods really do determine our fortunes, okay? And the ideas that are implanted into the minds of men and collectively, right? That all of us are animating individual parts and aspects of the one divine, and there's these movements that move through consciousness, and there's moods that overtake vast swaths of people. Okay, we can be in a place where we are either blown back and forth by the moods, by the tides, right, that are just kind of expressing across human societies, or we can choose on purpose to be the author of our own mood and to root and ground into that mood and build our house, which is really our life, on a solid foundation so that the winds can come and blow as they may, the waters can come and, the rain, the whatever, floods, but we know our sturdy foundation. We know who we are. We know that we have chosen consciously our mood. And so we're not blown about like perhaps some other people are blown about. And so particularly at this time, where we are, which I feel like I'm saying it now, but it's going to be true for as long as this video exists. The time that we are living in now, really, the choice is ours. Right? Are we going to accept the invitation from the outside of a mood to assume, or are we going to choose to write into being our own mood? This is the power of authorship. Are we going to let the story, the characters, in the storybook tell us what the mood of the author is? Or are we, as the author, going to choose our own mood and write from that premise? The choice is ours. We get to choose. We get to be the operant power. And I trust that the importance of moods in this writing process has been made clear today. That's all for this week, my friends. Imagine wisely. And I will see you all in the next.